Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. We're looking back and tonight and talking about the Amber Cromb case and some of the things that we've been doing since we returned from our trip to Texas. But as always, before we get into that, I want to thank all our mods and everyone that's coming to visit us in chat tonight and watching the video. And what will happen is we'll have a short presentation after which I'll answer all your questions. And while you're in chat, respect families, respect the mods, and respect each other. And like I said, thank you for being here tonight. With that being said, we can get into it here. All right. Of course, this is the case that we're looking at from Dallas, Texas. Recently, we had a team that assembled and met in Dallas, Texas, in the search for Amber Cromb, who went missing in December 26, 1983. A little 2-year-old little girl, beautiful child. And Larry Crum, who is the father, contacted me last year, and I've been working on the case since that time. And if you've seen our interviews with Larry, you know that story. If you haven't, please watch those videos and get caught up on that, for the fact it is a heartbreaking story. But as after our team assembled and we've did a week-long search there in Dallas, we gathered some samples, soil samples, and we also met with law enforcement out there at the time and turned over some evidence that we had initially, and they still have that. They analyzed some bones that came back to being 2 of the bones non-human, 1 bone unidentified but non-human. And then, of course, they have a hair that we haven't heard a report back on. And so we don't know what will be done as far as them analyzing that hair. I will speak with Larry and see if he will have any further contact with Dallas PD. He did state that Dallas had called him this week. And but I don't know everything that was in the discussion, other than Larry was, emotional and upset about some of the issues over the years. He's been fighting this for 40 years, trying to get justice. And so it was a roller coaster ride for Larry and for the team. We had high points and low points as we was out there searching, and that has continued. Once I got home and we started processing all the soil that we brought back, trying to find anything or any type of evidence from hair, bone, teeth. And as you process these items and you go through all these items, it takes quite a long time to screen each and every bit of this. Some of the of course, this is the work conditions in the crawl space, and this is Larry. He's searching. Him and Carolyn, who was with our team, they went under there, did a tremendous amount of work, did a great job. Absolutely unbelievable, the dedication that Carolyn has to this case. But and I will always thank her for that. This part of it, like I said, when we left Texas, we decided that, well, we're not going to be able to get back under that house for quite a while, if ever. So anything that law enforcement didn't come and take, and they had said that if they found anything human at the time from those bones that they first took for analysis, that they would come back. Well, they didn't find anything human, and so they didn't come back. And so we made a decision that we was going to bring anything and everything that we could back, and we did. And this is different parts of the soil that we processed. Um, I mean, it's uh, everything that was in that depression that we could load in the buckets. We absolutely loaded them, sealed them, brought them back, and I processed them. And it was, uh, I guess, about 6 days of work that I put
At
into.
least, yeah.
So I put in about six.
Well,
six.
I was part of that. So
Yes,
yeah,
she
at least
Mrs. Steve went up and helped me there on
at
the
the end.
processing at the end of it, because you um, as you process, I mean, it is one continuous um, grind, because you don't want to lose focus and possibly miss something, because a lot of the things that we were looking for, of course, is hair. But then another thing, we found quite a few other small bones, and we found some things that we thought were teeth, and that's what we're going to be looking at mostly tonight, because as I went through here, one of the things that on before we left the crawl space on that final day, there was a small bone that was found, and what Carolyn identified as what she thought possibly could be um, a tooth or quartz. And so we bagged that, brought that home, and after Mrs. Steve took the bone to a bone surgeon doctor, um, and they looked at it and said, absolutely, that's a rib. And it is the size that would be consistent of any animal, including human, in the 20 to 25 pound class of weight class. Now, we don't know uh, currently if that bone is human or non-human. I've started the process of checking with labs. Got some quotes coming in of what labs, and the quotes coming in are for more of the timetable versus how much it costs. Because we're under a time restraints that we need to get back to Texas before that property is sold or developed. And so some of these labs I've been speaking with, as far as analyzing the bone, are 3-4 months out. I'm waiting on one that, if you pay, you get to go up a little bit higher in the rankings, and you can get a quicker turnaround time. And so that's what we're looking at. I haven't heard back from them. I expect Monday or Tuesday to hear back from that lab. But it's just one thing after another. But while we were um, processing the soil and looking for as many items as we could that might possibly not only bone but um, other teeth, and we're talking about baby teeth. We're not talking about teeth that have large adult roots. Baby teeth don't have roots, and so you're just, if you look at any of your children's teeth, um, that you pull when they're 5 and 6 years old, but we're looking for a 2-year-old tooth that may not even be to the full size of what the 5 and 6-year-old teeth would be. And so we're looking for some very small things that might be a tooth, or it could be rock or gravel, or some type of hard materials. And, and so processing all this dirt took quite a while. And of course, we found quite a few items. Some of them were obviously rocks. Some of them weren't. Some of them looked like teeth. And I have a lot of pictures, or I have several pictures I'll be showing you tonight. And so that you'll see what we had high moments and low moments. And as I was speaking to the team and messaging them that we had other items that appear to be possible baby teeth, um, we're once again on that roller coaster ride. And so as we processed the dirt, and this dirt also had insulation in it, and we were looking for hair. We were everything that you can imagine, um, from the bones to these items that appeared to be teeth. It was, every time you found one, but sometimes it'd be an hour or two or three before, as you process it, if you found anything. And so uh, over the course of it, I think I took 11 items down to the Georgia um, Mineral Society. Made a great contact there with an individual um, that knows anything and everything. Um, because the first step that we took after we identified all the items in this dirt that we thought possibly could be teeth is we went to a professional, a dentist, and they analyzed the teeth, x-rayed the teeth, and were checking for enamel layers, which I know nothing about teeth, of course, other than um, going to the dentist and have teeth cleanings. That's about all I know about them. But the dentist went in there, he x-rayed them and found that those items did not have enamel layers. And so with that knowledge, for a second opinion, because everybody wants to make sure that this dentist, he's a professional, but mistakes can be made, and he's not into the world of the forensic part of it. And so I went to another expert, another scientist, and had them look at these items. But here's some more of the dirt that we processed, and here's some of the dirt after it's processed. These things are you everything is processed down to wafer thin, and I mean it's uh, so that you can feel every bit of items in it, so that you won't possibly miss something as small as a baby's tooth. And it took quite a while, but I kept the soil rather than totally washing it away, because I could have absolutely put it underwater, high pressure, screened everything away. But there's still other things that we can do with this soil if we have to, because we are looking at possibly, or we really want to have the soil analyzed for looking at organic, inorganic content, microbial communities, and there's other things that we can look for in those soils that possibly may show that at some point a body had resided in that uh, area that we were looking at. And because the area was extremely suspicious that this soil come out of, it was a depression in a crawl space that Carolyn described, that in her professional opinion, that there no reason for a 2-foot by 3-foot depression to be there in that location in the proximity of lime and charcoal. Just didn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense. Um, and why was that depression there? And at some point within that depression was amber. We just don't know that yet, but we're still looking at, and I'm trying to find a lab to do the soil analysis, and that's pretty hard, because all the DNA labs I've talked to right now, none of those do any type of soil analysis on a 40-year-old depression of where soil's been collected from, looking for those organic and inorganic content that might indicate that amber had been located there for any length of time during decomposition. But we haven't given up on that part of it yet either. But the cards are stacked against us on that. But we're still working along those lines, trying to cover all our bases. But some of these items that we look at, of course, if you just imagine, they're extremely large on the screen. But this item here, of course, you look at it and you really can't tell, is there a rock or whatever, because when you're looking at these things, you want it to be a tooth. And so rather than toss out something that might be possibly encrusted with soil, dirt, and contaminated from the body fluids over 40 years, what would something look like, and what would it be if, after 40 years of burial? And so we took anything and everything that could possibly have some type of similarities to the size of a baby tooth, and the general characteristics of a tooth, being flat, wide, and which on all the items I'm going to show you, I just have one dimension of it. But then we have this tooth here, or well, it's not a tooth, but this item that looks like a tooth. And some of these, it was absolutely amazing that when Mrs. Steve and I looked at it, we were, that's a tooth. There's no doubt. That's a tooth. Even when I went and got my daughter's baby teeth out and compared them to them, you couldn't tell the difference between them. And so you're riding the top of those waves as you look at these things. And then of course you have, like I said, you don't really know how much staining could have happened in the soils of Texas over 40 years. And as I was speaking not only to the dentist, but with this other expert in minerals of what would occur and could occur. And I learned a lot about teeth. The individual, the scientist with the Georgia Mineral Society, absolutely was talking about Texas at one point, and that they recover a lot of teeth out there, not only of Native Americans, but also sharks' teeth and everything that had over the hundreds of thousands of years have collected, and they have been able during searches and digs of recovering these items. And so he said that teeth are extremely durable, and they find them, that are hundreds of thousands of years old from different animals. Then, like I said, everything that possibly could be, we looked at and we analyzed and we took it to the experts. This one here, absolutely, you look at it and it says, okay, tooth. Some of them, like I said, they had shiny, almost similar. This is another one that you look at and you think, okay, could this be a baby's tooth? It had all the dimensions to it that said, yes, we need to continue. And so we took all of these items and analyzed them. And this was the one, this item here is the first one that was found in the crawl space, and it was found by Carolyn and Larry. And it had all the characteristics of everything that you would think. And even the when I showed it to um, uh, our last scientist, he says, "Oh, that could even be a shark's tooth." So when he was looking at it, he said, because if you look at the top little triangular section of it, he said, from that aspect of it, and I hadn't even thought about that possibility, but he looked at it and but after analyzing it and looking at everything and doing certain tests, which he showed me how to now, I can test and try to do, and will be able to determine the difference between what a tooth is and what quartz is. Quartz was scratched glass. And so he showed me, and he went through every one of these items that I've showed you here, every one of them. Um, and uh, and showed me which ones were absolutely quartz and and would scratch glass, and which ones weren't. But everything checked out to be rocks, and everything that we thought that had the highest probability of being a tooth is quartz. So that was a letdown. Um, so, but we did that process for the fact that we have to, as we move forward and as we pay for testing, that I don't want to overload the system with or use our funding for analyzing or attempting to analyze rocks. And so that's how come we went through the process that we did, rather than just load everything up and take to one lab and spend a lot of money on rocks. We went through this process so that we wouldn't have to. And so we now know that everything, as far as what we collected out there that appeared to be possibly teeth, is nothing but quartz, sadly. But we still have a lot of stuff that we're looking at, still trying to get that soil analyzed. And um, and if at some point, we will probably find a lab that can do that, even if it's one of the body farms, because most of the studies I read up on, they talk about during the decomposition of. I don't know if if the studies go back of what the older cold cases soil samples will show as far as any type of content of organic or inorganic in the microbial communities and what might exist in those soils. So we're still looking for that. But anyway, during our trip to Texas, of course, we had the ERI that Carolyn was able to do, which is electrical resistivity imaging. And then we're prepared to go back, which we may be going back relatively soon. As soon as next week, I'm talking to and finalizing that we're going to send that bone that we have, that rib bone. And speaking to the labs, almost all the labs say that the size of rib bone that we have, that for the analysis, it will totally consume that bone. And so whichever lab I go to has to have the absolute best technology and the best reviews. And so we're going to do that. We're not going to try to cut any corners because we get one shot at this. I don't want some one processing this that consumes the whole rib and we don't get another shot at it. So we're going to do the best that we can with the best lab that we can find and with the shortest turnaround time. And because we don't have 4 months to wait for the property. So we will be getting back out there to get that GPR done, and possibly even once we get that, we may start digging again because I know that Carolyn and her sister absolutely want to start digging now, but we're going to just have to wait because there's certain processes and steps that we need to take. But anyway, let me see if I've got everything covered on that. Oh yeah, some of the labs, like I said, there's only there's a lot of labs out there that can do DNA testing, and but there's a couple of them that also part of that testing is species testing, which is, from my understanding, a little bit simpler, um, or it's part of their DNA process that that if they can't identify it, they want you to know exactly that when you submit it to them, they'll tell you what species it is. And so I found that interesting that there's only 1 or 2 labs that includes that. Most of the other labs say, yes, this is DNA. We have a DNA profile that is of a individual. If they don't have a DNA profile, then they say, well, it's not, it could be human, but more, or it could be non-human. We don't know. But there's a couple of labs that do the species, and I found that interesting. Let's see. All righty. And that's pretty much, I think, everything I had taken note of. And so we'll get back to, we have any questions, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
And Ruckus is in the house.
Hello, Ruckus. How are you doing tonight,
and
sir?
Carolyn is in the house.
Hello, Carolyn. Good to see you. I know some of these pictures are the first that you've seen of these, and I have other pictures for you also.
All right. So I'm going to do some blue light specials.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Grace, for your 2 months membership and for your very kind donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate your support. It means a lot to us.
And all the help you've given me too.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, y'all just don't know. Oh my goodness.
You have no idea. All right. And Karen, 4 months membership and a super sticker. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
And I got to go find the other one. Hold on 1 second. It is Jocelyn, 3 months membership. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we want to thank all our members, especially for the fact that without you, we wouldn't be doing this. And we thank everybody.
All right, let's see here. And let's see here. See if I messed up. Okay. And from CM at True Crime Web, but could it be a non-human stick instead of a rib?
This is while she was under the house and she found this rib, she was sending out photographs to Chris. And there was a wild discussion between Chris texting and screaming and yelling at them. Is it a stick or is it a rib? Because it was encrusted with dirt and mud, and you couldn't really tell what it was. And but she knew it was a rib. Larry knew it was a rib, and so she used some pretty colorful language about why would I be taking pictures of a wooden stick and sending out to you, which was, quite humorous at the time because she was so upset with it. But it was a great point. Why would you be taking? She knew what it was, and now that we've gotten it out and taken it to an expert, a bone surgeon who has looked at a lot of bones in his life for law enforcement and others, he says without a doubt it's a rib, and so we're going to be sending it off and see if we can't find species and if it's human.
All right, one more blue light for Brenda. She gifted a membership.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So we appreciate that, Brenda. All right. And Miss Molly, do baby teeth have enamel or roots? Would Lyme affect enamel on teeth?
We looked at that, and the dentist absolutely, baby teeth have enamel. He showed me a lot of pictures of baby teeth with enamel. And also, when I was speaking to the scientists at the Mineral Society, same thing, enamel, and stated that enamel is what they recover, that it is extremely hardy and it lasts, and that it if you found anything of a tooth, it would be the enamel part of it, from my understanding. Now, he used a lot of other terms I didn't understand, other than that they recover them. Teeth that are 100,000 years old, and you have that layers of enamel. Because when I explained to him, when I first got there and we were talking about these items, and I said, the dentist has looked at him. He said, from the x-rays, there are not layers of enamel with these teeth. And he said, well, that's pretty conclusive by itself. So he understands enamel, and he understands teeth and rocks.
Okay. And CM, can you still find hair okay when it's processed like that? And that's your dirt.
Yes. We looked and looked and looked. We found so much of the insulation. And I mean, you'd be amazed at how much insulation was in that dirt. But
a bunch.
Yes.
Quite nasty.
But at some point, we will, what's there is there. And if, when we do the soil analysis, at whatever point that we get the okay for that, whatever's left over of that, then of course there's another step as far as processing. What can we do trying to find every bit of, we couldn't find any hair during this first steps, but that doesn't mean that there's not hair there.
Okay. And Single Mama 4, what do you think, Mr. Steve, happened to Amber?
I have a pretty good idea, but as the investigation moves forward, there are certain things that whenever we have other avenues of this investigation that's going to go forward, do I believe Amber is deceased? Absolutely. And I hope that she's on the property somewhere. And that's what we're working on. And we have some data that shows that there was certain areas that are disturbed, that shouldn't be disturbed, that Carolyn says are highly suspicious. and show certain things that anomalies that need to be looked at further.
All right, and we've got 2 more blues I'm going to lay out here if I can get it to work. What's wrong?
If you can get it to work.
Well, yeah, I didn't see it a while ago, but
Okay.
it was probably just me. Criminal Med super sticker. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And Miss G. Ann, I don't make it here often, but want to thank you and the missus for all you're doing to bring them home.
Thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate that. It means a lot to us, and absolutely, we are going to be going up to Iowa on another case in about a month and a half, and also back to Texas.
Yep.
Regardless, we're going back to Texas.
Okay. And I have, let me get back to the top. Miss G. Ann, could Amber be further down in the depression?
They went all the way to the bottom of the depression, and then went and collected some more soil samples from the bottom of the depression for me. So no, the depression has been emptied.
And from Mary, would a university archaeologist department be able to help with further soil analysis?
That's where we're going to be going with it eventually. If I cannot find a private lab, we'll have to start looking at some of the universities and seeing if there's been studies going back and on that, and what to look for as far as those content of organic and inorganic in these communities. And there's some big long names of certain things that exist in the soil where bodies have resided at one point. And so I just don't know how far back they'll be able to analyze it and see if they can find that information, that data.
And Karen, would the University of Wisconsin be willing to help with the soil analysis?
We haven't got to that part of it yet, but absolutely, like I said, I've got 2 more labs I'm waiting on to find out. But all the labs I've contacted so far, they do not do the soil. So it may go back to that. And just because they may do soil analysis, we don't know if they do soil analysis looking for clandestine graves.
Okay. Let's see here. And Single Mama 4, Tennessee has a great body farm. Can they help with this case?
I haven't contacted them yet, but I will be contacting them at a certain point. If we send off the rib bone that comes back human, it's over. It doesn't matter. There's nothing else that we need. Only if the bone does not come back, and that's how come there's certain steps to take. Is this working it from the private sector? And it's one thing when you are in law enforcement and you have a crime lab, a state crime lab. They'll handle all this that we're having to do. From the private sector, I don't have the resources and the ability of submitting it to the state crime labs. So I have to go out and we have to fund this and do it on our own. And so it's a little bit longer process, but we're building a great network of professionals. And once I find the labs that will do this, of course, we'll move forward rather quickly from this point on. But right now, it's just learning the process.
All right. And Carolyn has contacted the body farm, but she hasn't heard back yet.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She did that early on, I think.
Yeah. So she hasn't heard back. So she said maybe you should try to.
Yeah.
All right. And then this is from Lisa. I wonder if Larry would like a memorial glass heart since he doesn't have a marker. Why don't you email that to Steve, and then Steve can, of course, get with Larry on your glass heart.
And I also believe that they're doing a plaque at Angel Park up in Iowa. And so whenever we go over there, I think they're going with Lyric and Elizabeth. When we go back up in July, I think they have a plaque for her up there. But that's the only marker I know of that is going to happen.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. And from Cynthia, does anyone still live in that house in Texas?
Yes. And there's certain things going on with it now as far as it's going to be developed. And so that kind of puts us in a time frame of certain things that have to be taken. And steps have to be taken rather quickly. Although Larry says it's been 40 years and he's extremely happy as far as the progression of what we've done since we've been involved in it. But we are limited that what will the next owners do and will they allow us access?
And Leah, how would you go about digging as to not damage, separate, or spread bones around?
Well, I mean, it's, there's processes to everything. It's a steady, slow. It's not like, as they went through this soil, they went through it in a manner of digging it out and identifying certain things as they went through. And if and that's the only thing that you can do. You have to be slow and precise, and when you do find something, you identify it, mark it, and collect it. And hopefully, we do find something. And if we ever find anything that is clearly, as we proceed, if we were out there doing a dig that is human, such as a skull, then of course immediately the 911 call would be made. Just like we did when all the bones that were found under the crawl space, and they collected some of those bones, and of course those bones came back as non-human.
Okay. And Cynthia. Oh, that's the same question, just a different one. Okay. And Miranda, Steve, you seem a bit sad about the results of the teeth. What do you feel would be an acceptable ending of this case if you don't recover Amber's remains?
Well, oh yes, of course. I'm saddened before the fact that if we find anything human, case closed, done from the property, and that's what we're hoping for. But I've been involved in a lot of investigations in my life, and not all of them, are successful. And this is a case that's 40 years old, so the deck is stacked against us finding anything. But we're doing the best we can, and we try to, and we still have this one bone that we're going to be sending off. And does it mean that it will answer the question? For the fact that it may or may not, because we're looking at a very small, very delicate rib bone that's been buried for up to 40 years. And what DNA could possibly still exist, we don't know. But if it does come back human, and it being in a crawl space, then of course that's what we're looking for. But no, do I? That's what I hope. I hope for the best that it does come back human. But if it doesn't, no, there's still many, many avenues of what will continue as we move forward. There's still witnesses that lived that are still alive from that time period, and of course, all it takes is one tip of from an individual that knows what happened with Amber to step forward and give that information. And if we can ever make contact with that person and convince them to do the right thing, then that's what we're going to try to do. So, regardless if we find human remains or DNA, there's still a lot to do on the case, and we're going to do it.
You have a new email, remember?
Oh, yes. Yeah, tell them I keep.
For any tips on the case, you can send it to tips@truecrimeweb.com, and Steve will handle them accordingly.
Thank you. And not just for this case, but any case.
Any case. All right. And Miss Jeanne, do you have the DNA of Mom and Mom's old boyfriend?
I do not. Now, I don't know if law enforcement does, but I do not.
Okay. And who was it? Hold on just a second. Cold Truth is in the house.
Hello, Cold Truth. Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Let's see here.
Y'all check out Cold Truth. I love her to death.
Let's see here. I keep wondering about the boyfriend's jobs. Cold Truth, I keep wondering about the boyfriend's job site. That would be interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and let's see here. We have a question off topic.
Sure.
You want that?
Sure. We'll take whatever.
All right, here's an off topic one. So go with the flow. From Judy, do you think all three homicides are tied together? Lyric, Abigail, and the Flora girls?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, that was quick.
Mm-hmm.
That was quick. All right, let's see here. Okay, you're done.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And it has a long, I guess it's been probably the longest 2 weeks.
Oh, we got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Butt in.
Sure.
Cocksureness question. Any evidence when Amber was last seen known alive? Could she have been for days prior to their false missing report?
There's photographs of her on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day of where they were with other family members. So we know on the 24th, 25th, yes, she's alive. What happened between the late hours on the 25th to what has been reported and what has been stated is where the mystery is. From the mother, when she first says about checking on Amber, seeing her laying in bed, eyes fixed, and that she believes that she was deceased at that time, and giving law enforcement that statement. And then, of course, when they get into the probable cause part of the hearing with the judge, she flips the story and says, I was coerced by law enforcement to make those statements. And, of course, the judge throwed it out, and that's what brought us to this. But you know, it's just one of those things that I absolutely believe that the persons that were in care of Amber played a huge part in this disappearance, and we have to look at them for that and see if we can't, trying to find whatever evidence to find Amber and find justice for her.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you, Mods.
Yes.
You.
Like I said, I want to thank everybody that's been here tonight. I want to thank all the support, donations. If you like this video, subscribe, share it, and give it a thumbs up. We appreciate everyone being here. And we're slowly but surely getting back into the rhythm of things. And it's going to be a few more days as we move forward on everything. But we're working hard and trying to get caught up. And I appreciate everybody bearing with us while we get back in line of everything that we were doing. But y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all soon.